Welcome into Real Deal Sports Talk. It is Wednesday, October 12th, 2016. Thank you guys for listening tonight. It's great to have you. Appreciate my fans like always. Love talking sports with everybody. Hope everybody's day went good. You know, my day went good. A lot of fog here in town, a little chill today, but the temperatures, they should be rising over the next couple days here in Denver before we get some fall-like temperatures once again this weekend. Great time of year. So many football stories, so many sports stories in general to talk about. We'll try to get to as many of them as we can today for sure. We also have Cunningham's picks today. Jeremy will be calling in from the dirtcannon.com, and we'll get to talk to him about some stuff. We'll try and cover the Thursday night football game. We'll have the good, the bad, the ugly, and we'll get real a little bit at the end of the show, and I'll let you know why I think Julio Jones is overrated. I said it. Put it in your book. Write it down. Get mad about it. Get at me. Chat with me about it if you want. But I'm gonna put my two pieces in at the end of the show. I don't know if you guys, we've talked about kickers on this show a little bit too much for my liking. But we're going to talk about some kickers again. The Penn State kicker, Joey Julius, we talked about he's blowing people up. Now teams are blowing him up, getting their players kicked out of the game. Well, Joey has, in my opinion, inspired another kicker at North Penn High School. If you guys have not seen what this kicker did, Kelly McNamara, I said Kelly, yes, she is a female. She kicks off, kick returner's having a nice return, and Kelly McNamara lays the hat. She comes across and just knocks the returner out of bounds, off his feet, flying through the air. Boom! Lays the hat. So Joey Julius is inspiring kickers everywhere, male and female for that matter. The Penn State kicker, Joey Julius, who's running about 270. Miss McNamara is not running anywhere near 270, and she laid it out for him. Big things going on in baseball. Let's get that out of the way. The Blue Jays will be playing the Indians in the American League Championship Series. This is the same matchup that happened in the NBA this year, going for the NBA Finals as the Cavaliers face the Raptors. And that's the first time that has happened in the same year since 1969. So that's pretty cool. Good for the Blue Jays, good for the Indians, good for baseball. The Cubs have advanced to the National League Championship Series, good for the Cubbies, and they are waiting to see if they will play either Washington or LA in that series. So, good things for baseball. I told you guys I would have loved to have seen the Cubs and the Red Sox, but we'll have to see how this goes. All right, calling in now for Cunningham's picks. Jeremy, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Great to have you. Thanks for calling in. Thanks for joining us each and every week to lay some knowledge on us.
Absolutely, man. No problem.
Excellent. So it's been a great week in sports, great weekend in football. A lot of exciting things happen. Some new players going new places. Some players are out now that could affect, different offenses and defenses. But let's get into some topics for this week. Top value plays for Week 6. FanDuel, DraftKings, Yahoo. Who should we be looking at?
You got it, my man. So just a reminder for everyone out there, when we talk about value, we're really looking at not only what a player's projected performance is going to be, but also taking into consideration the salary that's been assigned to that particular player for the week. So when we're looking at those two comparisons, one of the unique things that we do at the Dirt Cannon is we basically tell you what the player needs to score in order to be worth the salary that's been assigned to them, and then we subtract that from our projected performance to give you a value.
Okay.
So, breaking that down for you as far as DraftKings is concerned, we've got Willie Snead as our top value play this week, going against a beat-up Carolina secondary.
Mm-hmm.
Coming off of an injury, had a bye week, 10 days to prepare for the Saints. Should be more than enough for Willie Snead to get back in the action, but for him to have a big day on DraftKings. For FanDuel, we've got Matt Ryan again. So, again, Matt Ryan comes in, playing a tough defense, but he's still leading the league in terms of fantasy points per week, if you don't count Tom Brady's one game, obviously. But they didn't change his salary. And our last player for this week, for week 6, another player to target for Yahoo is going to be Terrell Pryor again. Not going up against quite a defensive scheme this week. Salary-wise, only $17, so he's stayed around the same. He's been averaging about 14 fantasy points per week. So look for Pryor to be one of those guys that's solid, going to get almost guaranteed points out of them, and cheap play for sure this week.
Definitely, and you got to like Pryor at this point in his career, coming from what
Right.
looked like, was going to be a bust, and this year he's really coming into his own, and he might be getting it.
Yeah, they're putting him in all over the field. He's basically their only playmaker in Cleveland right now. So
Right.
you combine the fact that he's got the athleticism and the willingness to play multiple positions, which from the fantasy perspective is what you're looking for.
Definitely, for sure. All right, playoff players for season long. One quarterback, one running back. Let's just do one of each.
Yep, you got it. So, again, kind of a reminder, for most fantasy season-long leagues, your playoffs are going to be between week 14 and week 16. So, and just looking at players matchup-wise, so going against bad, like bottom third defenses, along with higher projected scores. So they may not be the highest projected player for any given week, but combine that with who they're playing. That's what we're using to provide this information for you. So coming in at quarterback right now, as it stands through 5 weeks, Cam Newton has the best matchups with the highest projected performance during the playoff run. He plays San Diego, Washington, and Atlanta, which are all bottom third defenses, and is right now projected to be the best quarterback in the playoff run. Now, we'll wait and see, obviously. I wouldn't go running right out and try to get Cam, but let's see how he comes back after he gets out of the concussion protocol and see what he looks like over the next couple of weeks.
Indeed.
Let's see. As far as quarterbacks I like Jameis Winston, just so you know. He's got great matchups during the back half of the season. He gets the Saints twice. Look for him. He's throwing the ball about 44 times a game, so he's a good guy to consider for sure for the playoff run. Coming in at running back, I've got David Johnson as the highest projected running back. Teams he plays, he has Miami and New Orleans for the first 2 weeks of the playoff run. He plays Seattle from championship week in week 16, if that's when your championship is played. But Arizona's run the ball very well against Seattle, so look for him to be a solid play. He's also the leading running back so far, so no surprise there.
Right.
Kevin Coleman is a guy that's not owned in 50% of leagues right now. He's a guy you might want to put on your radar or your watch list for season long, especially for that playoff run.
Yep.
Let's see here. At wide receiver, Julio Jones is the top projected performer. Atlanta's got the Rams, 49ers, and Panthers, all the bottom third teams. Obviously, we saw what he did against the Panthers last go around. I don't think he'll get 300 yards, don't get me wrong, but 20 fantasy points is pretty much on the radar for all 3 of those weeks. And another wide receiver, going back to my Jameis Winston comment, I will look at Mike Evans just because of the matchups and the way Tampa Bay is throwing the ball right now.
Right.
And then last, let's see here. Last, we've got tight ends. So right now, as it stands today, tight ends, we've got Greg Olsen as the top tight end for the playoff run. Shouldn't be a surprise there. He's leading tight ends in receptions in the yards so far this season. Talked about Cam Newton. He's his go-to guy for sure in the red zone. And again, they play San Diego, Washington, Atlanta. So matchup-wise, the line's pretty well for that playoff run.
For sure.
Obviously, last week, got Bennett that played pretty well. He's another guy to keep an eye on. If with Gronk coming back and getting more into the mix, teams are going to have to double team one of those 2 guys. I suspect they'll double team Gronk. Look for Bennett to continue to play well down the stretch.
Yeah, that's going to be, Tom Brady's on the FU tour, and he's got 2 studs at tight end.
Oh, 2 big dudes, man, running down the middle of the field that are quick. So it was pretty crazy watching that last week for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, man, just thinking of that, I'm glad they're not on the Lions' schedule right now. Let's do some trade proposals for season long. Let's do top three trade proposals for the season long. I like this topic.
Absolutely. So, again, what we're looking for are guys that you have good value and targeting those certain players that we just talked about in our last segment as far as playoff run, right? So, who could you get, or who would you have to give up to get some of these guys that are going to be more valuable to you in that playoff or down the stretch run for your season long? So, at quarterback right now, the top the top trade proposal that's been put out there both on Yahoo as well as ESPN is Aaron Rodgers for Cam Newton. So again, if you're a believer in Cam and you don't have him on your roster, Aaron Rodgers is a likely candidate that you could get that trade proposal put through for sure. And we've talked about what we expect from him. I don't expect a lot from Aaron Rodgers down the stretch. I think he's going to continue to struggle more and more. There's no running game in Green Bay. He got hurt again last week, so we don't even know what we're going to get out of the backfield over there. So that means teams are going to play the pass, and I don't think beyond Jordy Nelson, I don't trust the rest of those guys. So if you can get Cam Newton for Aaron Rodgers right now, that's what I would certainly consider.
Yeah.
Next on the list, the next highest kind of trade proposal that's been out there, especially coming off of 2 big weeks, is T.Y. Hilton for Julio Jones. So we know Julio can have big breakout performances, but in 2 of the last 3 weeks, he's scored 3 or less fantasy points in the league. So while he's a big name, top wide receiver, the Falcons offense has learned to adapt without him. And so right now, people are willing to, give up something that you probably wouldn't consider at the beginning of the season. So right now, T.Y. Hilton's going for Julio Jones at about 25% of Yahoo leagues right now.
Wow.
And the last one I've got for you is LeSean McCoy for David Johnson. Again, McCoy has rushed for over 125 yards in 3 straight games. He's really the only offense the Bills have other than a couple deep balls during the game. And they're just pounding the rock in Buffalo. So he's got high value right now. David Johnson's coming off a big week, so we'll see how that pans out. But right now, in about 35% of leagues, you can get, if you have McCoy, you could get David Johnson, or at least make that offer.
Right. And, David Johnson does have the benefit, it looks like this week, of Carson Palmer coming back to help that passing game a little bit. So maybe he's able.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
I don't foresee another 30-point performance out of David Johnson, but, 16, 17 points maybe this week.
Yeah, he's been averaging right around 18 other than that big week, so he's solid for sure. But McCoy's been right about the same, so they're about equal as it stands so far.
All right, there you go. If you got it, try and make that happen. Let's get into a couple games now. There's some big games this week. Big one for you, 4-1 Falcons going against, another division leader in the Seahawks. Break this one down for us.
You got it, my man. Well, Atlanta did something unusual this week. They stayed out on the West Coast, so they didn't travel back to the East, so they're not dealing with time zone situations like they normally would or that they had against Oakland earlier in the season. I think that bodes well. It just kind of leads to the confidence that the Falcons have right now. They put a pretty good game plan for sure together against Denver's defense, forcing those linebackers to cover the running backs. And we talked about last week, the key to that game was how well the running backs performed for Atlanta. And if they get a similar performance, I suspect a similar game plan will be had by Atlanta, trying to get the backs out into the passing game. And let's see if Seattle's linebackers can cover these guys down the field. So Dirk Cannon prediction machine actually has Falcons winning this game 31-15. I think it will be much closer than that. I've got Falcons pulling out a squeaker 20.